intro. The show. Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here for Leadership Conversations. This is the show where we talk about leadership according to the world that matters to you. I got a couple intros to do. We've been doing this thing in 2019 focused on launching a business and launching a project that matters to you. And obviously, all the podcasts have been driven to that. And so, as I have been saying and sharing with you all, we wanted to bring in guests who represent that. And so, my guest represents that. But then there's something beyond that. So there was this platform back in the day called Blab. What was it? 2014, 2015, 2016. It probably died.
Something like that.
And Blab was Facebook Live before Facebook Live. And it was really cool, man. It was really like a cool platform where you could meet up with people, broadcast with 4 people at a time. And that's where I met this guy who lives in St. Louis, Missouri. And, you know, we just stayed connected all these years. And you might have seen him on my most recent podcast, Galen Bingham. But you're in Connecticut today. So now you're live in studio.
Oh, man, this is incredible because we've known each other for 5 years, at least 5 years, and we've done so many different projects together. And this is my first time meeting you.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of hard explaining this to friends that I'm hanging out with, and they're like, "So where are you going tomorrow?"
Yeah.
It's like, "So what are you doing?"
Yeah, I had breakfast with someone this morning, and I was trying to explain like this is gonna be weird. This is so used to watching you on the screen.
Yeah.
Jeez, man, it's good to have you in the studio, bro. So what brings you in the area?
Yeah, so just hanging out with I've got friends and family here, and my daughter is of an age that everywhere we go, we look at colleges and universities just to get a feel for this is what this is like, this is what that's like. So as she gets closer to making a decision, she's got something to compare it to. So that's part of what's going on. And then I've got really, really good friends that happen to have moved here, and I am godfather to their youngest daughter, and the lady is godfather to my daughter. So just really long time friends, and so we're just hanging out with them, and so it's just really kind of a family reunion. And I was thinking about something on the ride over because my wife was making a comment about, hey, look, that's the building where I met my best friend, and pointing out all these landmark places to my daughter.
Yep.
And, she would always end every comment with, I had no idea that place would be so significant, right? But that's the place where I met my best friend, right? Or that's the place where I met whomever. And of course, that got me to thinking about leadership, which it's kind of hard for me not to. But it's like there are so many things that when you look back on your life, you can pick out these places, you can pick out these events, you can pick out these situations that were instrumental to creating who you are.
Yep.
But when you're going through it, you're begrudging it, you're fearful, you're sad, you're upset.
Yep.
And you have no idea that this is going to be this is going to be the crucible that is going to create whatever magnificence that you are going to put into the world in the future.
Yep.
And I was thinking about how we really should flip that around. I mean, if we know that these terrible moments, that these trying moments are going to be critical, we should be excited when we go through those moments, because this could be it, right? This could be the thing that causes me to make a decision that saves, the job for thousands of people, or this could be the thing that allows me to create wealth for hundreds of thousands of people. This could be anything.
Yep.
And if we go into those situations with excitement as opposed to fear and trepidation, I think we could probably get more out of those situations. So
I agree.
So that's the way my head works, man. That's the way I think about.
So how's your time been?
It's been good, man. Every time we come back to Connecticut, or really anywhere on the East Coast, my wife and we often have the exact same expression. We just don't know when it's going to come. And the expression is, we'll look at each other and we'll say, we just need to move here.
What?
do we just need to? I mean, do we just need to move here? And then all my friends said, I wish you would just move here, right? But we said that about New York. We said that about Connecticut every time we come. We say that about Philly. We say that about almost everywhere we go if it's on the East Coast.
Oh
So at
gosh.
some point we're gonna pull the trigger and make that happen.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, I mean, I moved. I lived in Philly. I was born and raised, and
Okay.
moved to Connecticut 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting transition.
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, now the problem with Philly, though, for me, and this is a problem for me, is my daughter has fallen in love with UPenn.
Yeah, my wife went to UPenn.
See, that's a problem because I
It's
believe,
expensive.
well, yeah, it's expensive, but I believe that you need to go away for college. You need to be away from your parents. You
Yeah.
need to have $5 in your pocket and looking at a week in front of you, right? I think that's part of the education process. And if my daughter goes to UPenn and we can't move to Philly,
Oh, you'd be too close.
yeah, we too close.
I don't know what to say about that.
So that's a problem. So we have to figure that out.
Jeez. I mean, well, you could live in Jersey or New
Yeah,
York
that's what
or
I'm saying.
Connecticut.
That's what I'm saying. Or Connecticut.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think before it's said and done, before they sprinkle dirt over my box, we're gonna be back on the East Coast in New England, probably somewhere.
That is wild. I never knew you were in this area, that you lived in this area, that your wife was in
Yeah,
from this area.
man, I'll tell you, man, I've lived in 14 states, 19 cities, so trying to keep up with me is like a full-time job. That witness protection program keeps you moving. So, but Connecticut, I've always enjoyed. Actually, I've always said that um, Connecticut is one of the places that I would love to retire to. However, you got to have commas in the bank account in order to do Connecticut right, because Connecticut is not cheap.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
wish somebody
cheap.
told me that when we got called here.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, it's not even about the figures, it's the commas. You got to have at least two commas. The commas are worth more than any number you want to put on that.
Too common.
You got to have two commas to do this thing right.
Oh, man, it's crazy. So, man, we got time to burn, and I got you in the studio, so I'm gonna use you up while you're
All right,
here.
go for it. Go for it.
So, let's take a few steps back. I mean, obviously, if people have been following the podcast, they obviously would have heard conversations we've had. But tell us a little bit about you,
Yeah.
and then I'll go further into other questions that I really want to dig into with you.
Sure. So, moved around a lot. Primarily grew up in Oklahoma, the Midwest area. Born in Arkansas, raised in Oklahoma. But then when I started my professional career with Kraft Foods, they actually shipped me to New Haven, Connecticut. And from there, just moved around a lot. From sales, moved to sales leadership. From sales leadership, changed companies. I actually went from Kraft to Coca-Cola. Again, sales leadership. Got into the space of sales training, which I was convinced was a dead end role, and that they were trying to send me a message because it wasn't a real job. I was having way too much fun, and you're not supposed to enjoy your job. What kind of a deal is this? And they were paying me, more than what I was paying when I was running a piece of business. I'm like, okay, you all are trying to get rid of me, and it's a matter of time. But ended up falling in love with it. It was supposed to be an 18-month assignment. I stayed in an 18-month assignment for 8 years. Although because I really, really enjoyed it, and turned down 3 opportunities to interview for what I thought was my dream job, which was to be a vice president of sales. Turned those opportunities to even interview for them down because I was enjoying the role so much. Ended up writing 2 books and creating a full-time business on developing leaders. And every conversation that I have with anyone regarding anything tends to have some sort of leadership lesson in it, just because that's the way my head works. People often say, or my friends often say, Galen, can you turn this thing off? Man, we don't need to hear this right now. And if I could turn it off, I would, but I can't. It's kind of got me. One of my favorite phrases, and this is the last thing I'll say, but one of my favorite phrases is I've got two of them. Is I believe that every success and every failure begins and ends with leadership. For me, that is like there's leadership involved in every activity, whether it's a win or whether it's a failure. And then the other thing that I say a lot, and it's really kind of a core life principle for me, is that I believe that everyone was designed to be the greatest in the world at something.
Hmm.
And therefore, your life's mission is to find your thing so that you can get on with celebrating being the greatest in the world. And, anything less than the greatest in the world, you are failing what you were designed to do.
Mm.
Right? You can be good by happenstance. You can roll out of bed on a Tuesday and feel a breeze through the window and be good. But being great requires a decision. You've got to decide, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm going to uncompromisingly commit myself to being the greatest in the world, the greatest that's ever done this thing. And, that's been my passion for the past 10 years, helping people find their thing. Because that's really my passion, helping people step into their destiny.
All right. So, with that being said, let's dig into the businesses that you own. So you own. I kind of broke it down to three things. You own a retail business.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about that at your discretion. Then you own a. I don't know if you want to call it a consulting business,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
leadership business. Okay. And then the books. So, do you want to talk about the retail business at all, or no?
Yeah. I'll talk about it. Probably won't mention the name, but I'll
Okay.
talk about it. I'll talk about it. But yeah, so my wife and I, both of us had corporate careers. I don't know. I think at that point we're probably both 20 years into our corporate careers, and for our entire marriage, every year we would say, you know what, we need to open a business. We need to buy a business, right? And so we had this notebook full of business ideas that we were writing down and wanting to do someday. And I guess about 5 years ago, I went through this period of about 3 months where two sets of friends that didn't know each other each bought a business, and we were going to grand openings.
So you opened a business based off peer pressure?
But it's partly that, but it's like in like this short period of time we were going to all these grand openings, and then we were keeping this notebook of something we were going to do someday. And so finally, I started thinking about coaching I give to my coaching clients, and that is either do it or stop talking about it.
Facts. Facts.
And I usually say, I really don't care which one you choose, but you're going to either do this thing or you're going to not talk about it anymore.
Right.
And so I said to my wife, we either need to do this thing or we need to throw this notebook away.
Right.
Right. And so from there, we went through the process of trying to figure out what business we would go into. And as fate would have it, we ended up connecting with one of my friends who was like really, really deep, and he shared his resources with us, and happened to be the dude, the guy, the only attorney in the Missouri area that knows franchising. He's like the master of
Get
franchising.
out.
And had a conversation with him. He tried to talk me out of going into that business. And of course, I was strong headed, and I said, no, but I can do it. And man, I tell you, we're like 4.5 years in. And, we know all the phrases that say it takes 5 years to turn a profit in your business.
Yeah.
And my belief was, yeah, well, that's for everybody else. They haven't seen Galen Bingham yet. I'm thinking 18 months. And yeah, 4.5 years in, and we're staring at our first profitable year.
Get out. Well, so that's different because last time we talked about it, you were kind of.
Yeah, I've learned a lot through this process. I mean, I came into this with a good degree of arrogance. As I was saying, I was thinking, hey, look, I got this storied background. I know about running a bit. I've been in business for 30 years, right?
Get out.
And so, but there was a lot that I had to learn about leading a team of, teenagers, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. That's a different mentality running an hourly business, because ours is an hourly business. All the things that I used to turn to a department to do for me, I am now that department,
Get out.
right? I used to turn to my marketing, when I'm working at Coca-Cola, I'd turn to my marketing executive and say, we really need to develop something to connect with this group of consumers. Well, in my business, I'm the marketing department. Why aren't I connecting with this group of consumers, right?
Mm,
And so there was just a lot that I had to appreciate and learn. And quite honestly, we're going to talk about some of the other businesses that I own. That's actually, this business has made me a better consultant. And, because I can go from talking about the high level macroeconomic, strategic, global strategies that you need to think about if you're running a global business.
mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, I can say, and this is what you need to do on Tuesday to make sure your employees show up. Right.
Mm.
And I couldn't do that before. I mean, I understood it intellectually. I read all the Harvard Business Reviews and all the white papers and all that stuff, but I've lived it now.
Mm.
For the past 4 years, I've lived. I've got two employees that are supposed to open the shop, and one doesn't show up, and the other one's late. Right, and it's my money. Right, it's not this mystical, magical
Mm.
budget number that we're gonna miss by 2%. No, it's $300 coming out of my pocket.
Wow.
So I think it's added a lot of texture to the consulting that I give to other leaders, regardless of where they are. I can demonstrate empathy as opposed to just sympathy.
So there's so much I want to dig into. So let's start with you own this franchise, and you're just now turning a profit. That's been hard.
Yeah, boy. It's been hard.
Like, do you pay yourself? Are you on payroll yet?
I am not on payroll yet. I'll take that back. My cell phone is covered.
It's big time. It's big time, man.
My cell phone is covered every month. So, that's.
Get out. So what did it take to finally turn a profit? Because you said you were told 5 years to turn a profit. What did it take to turn that profit? And how did you feel knowing that you finally turned that corner?
Yeah. So, to answer that question, I'm going to go to another cliche that I use a lot. Margin is made in the corners.
Mm.
Margin is made in the corners, man. It's like, we used to use a phrase in corporate America where we'd say, it's about chasing nickels down the halls, but it's like literally looking into the corners of the room and trying to find ways to save on the electric bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to find ways to enhance training so that labor costs is because there's two parts of labor cost for me anyway in my business. There is the productive labor cost where I've got someone, they're running the shift, they are engaging with our guests, trying to make them feel good about spending their money. That's active and productive labor costs. And then there's training costs where that's literally I'm scheduling someone to work. I really don't need them to run the shift. I'm scheduling them because I need them to learn how to run the shift, right? And if I hire someone and they don't make it through the training program, or they quit 3 weeks after the training program, that's lost money. I can't get that back.
Yeah, turnover.
It didn't help me while they were here, and now it doesn't help me because I don't get the benefit of the training. And so I've been really focused on how do I shorten that time without shortening the impact of the experience.
Yeah.
Because I still need for them to be effective at what they do. But, instead of taking 10 shifts, can I get that down to 8 shifts? So it's looking into the corners and trying to find the margin in the corners.
Wow. So, in my world, in the nonprofit world, doing workforce development, I think one of the things that I've shared with you that we, as a community, don't do too well of is understanding the plight and the game the business owner is playing. So you're talking about finding savings in the corners, right? Saving on bills, automating things that can be turned off or on, the training process and the retention process.
Yeah,
Because
that's it.
for us in the nonprofit world, we're learning constantly learning like the detriment and the power of retention. So when we're recruiting people to be placed at a facility with a business owner,
Yeah.
we're trying to recruit clients or job seekers who have interest in that industry,
Right.
can see themselves growing, and then have the longevity to stay. Now, what we've learned is that what causes people to not be retained can be on the employer side. So if there are cultural and generational conflicts that create an issue. But then on the employee side, the barriers they face. So transportation, childcare, a background, instability in the home, etc. It creates all these barriers that stand in the way. When you look at that, or when you hear someone from the nonprofit side say that, how do you respond to that? Like, do you find that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. So from two standpoints, because I'm also on 3 nonprofit boards, so I get to sit in the ivory tower, 20,000 feet, and make these proclamations about what the nonprofit organization needs to do.
Right.
And then I get to put on my hat as an operator and say, okay, this is what's really going on. But I think you're right. Yeah, there are certain things that I can't control.
Mm.
Right? I can't control what's going on outside of what's inside of my building.
Right.
Can't control a whole lot of what goes on inside of my building, for that matter, even. But if I can, from a leadership perspective, if I can try to create a culture that is so attractive to you, that you have so much fun in, that you feel so validated in, that another 25 cents an hour from Target or Walmart or whomever won't matter as much to you. That's what I'm trying to do.
Mm.
And then, my job as an owner is in that I got to hit you with that fast. I've got to hit you with the culture fast while you're in the training process, because let's face it, not only am I evaluating you, you're evaluating me. You're evaluating, is this someplace I want to hang out for a
Right.
bit?
Right.
So yeah, it's for me, it's about creating that culture. And then you asked earlier about what are some things that I've learned, what's helped me turn what's helped me turn the corner. And it was I had to commit to being an owner operator. And let me explain that.
Mm-hmm.
I was of the mind that I could invest the money, I could pay for all the stuff, I could hire some shift leads, and then I could just kind of turn the business over for them to run. Because I'm a strategist, right? I'm a marketer. I'm a strategist. Look at my pedigree. My resume kind of speaks to the intelligence that I have. But what I've learned is that people were joining the organization and joining my team because of me. And then they were leaving the organization because of the shift lead that was running the business, because I wasn't involved. I was only involved in the interviews. I was only involved in maybe your orientation, and then I'd go off and be a strategist somewhere. And on Tuesday morning, they got upset. They get upset with something that my 19-year-old shift lead said or did. And now they're thinking about leaving, and all of a sudden that 25 cents from Target sounds really, really attractive. And that's my fault, right? Because every success, every failure begins and ends with leadership, and I was not involved. I was asking a 19-year-old kid, no matter how good they are, I was asking someone 19 years old to run my business for me. And that sounds silly for me to even say. But over the past year, I've gotten a lot more hands-on, a lot more into the weeds, a lot more owning the day-to-day. And I think that that's made a difference.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, and I'm thinking about people who, I don't want to have a blanketed statement, but people who believe it's like a set it and forget it when you run a business,
Yeah.
or the glam and glitz of it. When in reality, running a business, I mean, you pretty much you created a job for yourself, and yes, there are books articles that talk about, the investor mindset. So the rich dad, poor dad approach, the cash flow quadrant approach, which is you either business owner, solopreneur, business owner, or
Yeah.
investor. And even from the investor standpoint, i- i- based upon what you're saying, it seems as though to be an active investor, you got to know what to look for to know that this business I'm investing in is being properly operated,
Yeah.
not by someone who is inexperienced or immature.
Yeah.
For people who are wondering, think about the Shark Tank examples. What causes what seems to be the trend of making a sound investment is when a operator or business owner is competent in that industry, competent in running the business, and the investment of the shark is more or less an add-on,
Right.
a contribution,
Right.
along with whatever skills. And they seem to try to avoid getting into the weeds unless the potential of that business is so large that I got to get involved.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. And, there's so much value in, one of the books that I'm reading now. I can't remember the name of the author, but the name of the book is Clockwork. How do you create a business that runs without you?
Clockwork.
Yeah, it's called Clockwork. And because if the business requires you to be there on every shift, then yeah, you just bought yourself a job, right? I now just bought a $10 an hour job or whatever the case might be. And that's not what I invested in. So I've got to create systems that will allow me to do other things while my business runs effectively. But here's the catch. You have to create your own systems based on how you think about your business. And until you get into your business and run it yourself, you don't know the systems that you need.
Sure.
Now, and I'll use us as an example. Dr. William Clark, smart dude. You could say, hey, look, Galen, you getting ready to start a nonprofit. Here are the systems that you need to think about.
Yeah.
And they're probably right, but they're not consistent with how I think about the business. And if I just take your systems and install them into my organization, they look good on paper, but they're not going to be effective for me because they're not consistent with how I think.
Right.
And you can't know how you think unless you get into the business. And I'll give you a class example for my situation. I've got a number of machines in my business.
Yep.
And the machines require that they be full of my product. As a matter of fact, if they're not full of product, then they start to break down. And if they break down, then it's like labor costs and all that margin that I was looking for in the corners gets sucked into service. Yep. And all that stuff. And another requirement is that they have to be cleaned a certain way at least once a week, each machine. And, so I put the systems in place, said, okay, here's the schedule for cleaning all the machines. Here's a schedule for making sure that they're all full, and turn this over to my 19-year-old shift lead. And your job is to make sure that all this gets done. I've got systems in place. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to check to make sure that these reports have been filled out, right? I'm going to taste the product to make sure that the product tastes good. That's my check. And all of that sounds really good, except that the shift lead wasn't really doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't there enough to know that the shift lead wasn't really doing it. The shift lead found a system for gaming my systems. Right. Which when you
smart.
but see, when you work there, you find the holes to do what you're needing to do. And that's what my shift lead was doing. And it wasn't until I started working there consistently, and it wasn't just like one day a week. I had to spend like 3 days back to back to back, because it's kind of hard to hide for 3 days in a row, right? I can hide one day. If I know you're coming, I'm gonna shine my shoes. I'm gonna press my shirt. I can make that happen for one day. 3 days in a row, that's kind of hard to hide. And I had to get into that. And once I did, I started seeing a lot of things that I wasn't seeing when I was making my surprise visits. And that person actually ended up leaving because I was able to clean up the holes that they were playing in. And now you can't game the system the same way, right? I'm sure there are other ways that you can game the system, but you can't game them that way.
Let's dig into this. So, what are the key indicators that you look for to manage the system now? Because I don't know if I would criticize you for your original indicators.
Right.
If the product tastes bad, clearly something's wrong. If the machine is gumming up, clearly you're not keeping it filled with
Right.
the right ingredients, etc. So you cleaned up, you addressed the system. So what are the key indicators now
Yeah.
that you've learned
So one of the things that I've learned, and this came from having a whole lot of service calls, and
from
actually
clients or calling to get your machines
yeah,
fixed?
calling a service company to come out and fix my
Got you.
equipment because
Yeah.
they were breaking down a lot more frequently than they should be.
Right.
And when the service guy would come out, I literally stood over his shoulder to watch him fix the machine.
Yep.
And I would ask him questions. Okay, so why is this happening? Right? This isn't the training that I went through. Right? The training didn't suggest that this was going to happen. So what's going on? And just by having those conversations, I learned that if the product is dripping, that means something. And here's the cause of that. Here's the part in your assembly process that you could do to prevent the machine from dripping. And whereas before I thought, I'd come in and I may see one or two drips, and it's not a terrible thing. But now I'm sensitive to that's an indication of something.
Meaning that the ingredients weren't properly put together inside
That
the machine.
the machine is needing a lube. There's a gel
Oh, okay.
that you're supposed to put on, that if you put them on in the right way, the machine doesn't drip.
Okay.
Now, the dripping is just kind of at least I thought it was just kind of a nuisance, right? It just meant that we had to clean the machines more frequently. That's what I was thinking. Come to find out, that drip is an indication that the washers aren't lubricated the right way. And if the washers aren't lubricated the right way, then the machine is going to eventually start grinding on itself. And now I've got a more expensive problem to fix. It's almost like the old commercial that you're too young to remember. I think it was Meineke or Midas, and they said, "You pay me now or pay me later," right? And that's the thing here. Something that I thought was just a nuisance was a sign that a larger bill was coming, and that ultimately leads to product quality going down, which ultimately leads to guest satisfaction going down, which leads to needing to spend more money on advertising in order to get. So it's like all these things come from this small indicator that I wasn't aware of because I was sitting in my ivory tower as a strategist, as opposed to in my shop every day as a business operator. And I've just learned so many little things like that. Just so many little things. I mean, indicators around labor. I can tell because in today's culture, I do a lot of my communications is through text. And I've started to identify a trend of the kinds of texts that I get from people when they are getting close to wanting to leave. Right? They're not at that point yet, but they're at that frustration point, right? And I can sense that now, whereas I couldn't sense it before. They say that you talk about Shark Tank, and very often, and then also another show, The Prophet.
Love that show.
Where when I used to watch it before, I felt like, wow, these guys just have a great sense of business. They just have a great instincts about business. Well, that instinct was developed. It was developed from being in so many businesses that have failed, and then analyzing what caused that failure and what are the indicators that might suggest that we're heading down that same path. And you can't get that from reading a Harvard Business Review article.
No, it's not the same. I've talked to pastors who said that, man, seminary really doesn't prepare you to pastor. It doesn't prepare you to lead a group of elders or deacons. It's true in any business. I think to just even continuing the conversation about indicators in the nonprofit world is the same way.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when I took over the program I'm running now. I used to hear a lot, man. You don't know how to do this. You never ran this before.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's like. And I'm like, I mean, perhaps not this program, but they all have the same
Yeah.
trends. You have funders who you got to satisfy who are paying for an outcome. You don't meet the outcome, they take their money back and you're out of a job.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to the indicators the funder wants, the systems you put into place to get those indicators, the way you recruit, the way you market, the way you brand, the way you partner, the way you manage the business, the way you function, and all that you
Right.
do. I can look at one thing, know that is off, and know it's going to harm the business from Jump Street.
Right.
And so, I guess the lesson for business owners who are launching something, know your business. Like even for mid-level managers, before you even can get to the point of being quote lead, there's a healthiness in knowing how to run every little piece of the business.
Right.
What they used to call a rotational program.
Yeah.
When I was coming up in my career, you run every part of the department, so even if it's for a couple weeks at a time, couple months at a time.
Right.
It gives you insight.
Yeah, and I think the most valuable part of what I heard you say is, do the rotational business, learn every piece of the business, but you got to do it for a couple months at a time, right? There's a difference between doing something once or twice to demonstrate that you know how to do it, and having that be your responsibility to get it done. Right?
Yeah.
There's no one else coming in to do this thing.
Mhm.
You've got to do it, and you got to do it. After you stayed out all night last night, right? And don't feel like doing. You've got to do it.
Yep.
And there's so much that I've learned from that. I mean, there have been so many instances where, we open our shop at 12, and 1 o'clock, no one's there.
Mhm.
Right. And then I got to go in. Yeah. Okay. So someone was supposed to be there. Right. And they need to be reprimanded. In the meantime, we got to open our shop, and it's me.
Yep.
Right. And so I got to know how to open my shop. I've got to know the right things to do. I got to do the most impactful things first, because I've got people standing outside wanting to know why you didn't open when you said you were going to open.
Yeah.
And if I just rely on the 10 days of training that my franchisor gave me, I'm not going to be prepared. And so I think that's the thing that's made the biggest difference. And it's also changed now the kinds of questions that I ask when I'm interviewing someone, because now I know what they're going to face.
Yep.
I know the pressure points that's going to make them want to get frustrated, and all of a sudden that 25 cents from Target looks really attractive, right? So, yeah, it's really changed a lot for me.
For this particular business, the franchise retail business, do you manage for dollars, or do you manage for percentages?
Good question. Well, first of all, you can't take percentages to the bank. So I need real money. I've tried to pay my electric bill with percentages, and the electric company doesn't like that very much.
Get out.
I smiled and tilted my head to the left and everything, and they're like, "Yeah, we need a check." But I think both. The ultimate game is to make money. And I was actually just looking at my financial reports on the way over here, and the trend is looking really positive on making money, but the percentages give you an indication of the direction that you're heading. The thing that I've said a lot on a couple different shows, actually, is particularly here in the United States, businesses get into trouble when they turn the measurement into the objective. And we have a tendency to do that. We have a tendency to turn the measurement into the objective. And my background is corporate America, working for some of the biggest brands on the planet. And although they are amazing companies, there's always this pressure, because they're publicly traded, to really focus on the quarterly earnings, right? And that's important, or the earnings to profit ratio, really, really important, but that was always intended to be a measurement, not the objective. And you're going to make a different decision if you're thinking of that as my objective, right? If I'm thinking of my quarterly earnings as my objective, I'm going to make different decisions than if I think of this as I've got a 20-year horizon. What can I do today? What investments can I make today? What projects can I cut today so that I will be in the best possible position 20 years from now, or my organization will be in the best possible position 20 years from now, even if I'm not here, even if I'm not the one sitting in the desk. That's a different set of decisions that you have to make than, okay, I got quarterly earnings coming up and I'm going to miss it by $1.2 million. What can I do to drop $1.2 million to my bottom line right now so that I hit my quarterly number? It's a different set of decisions. And I think we get in trouble all the time when we make the measurement the objective. And I'm sure the same thing could probably happen in a nonprofit organization, right? You've got, I know that there are certain targets, there are certain measures, there are certain numbers and ratios that you've got to show to investors, especially if you're supported by someone like the United Way. Mm-hmm. They want to see certain ratios. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking to get an injection of $2 million from the United Way, that becomes pretty important. Mm. Right. Yeah. And so if the objective then becomes, how can I hit this target that I'm missing, this number that I'm missing by $5,000? $5,000 could turn into $2 million. So I'm going to, cut this operations, cut this resource, cut this whatever, so that I can hit my number. Well, yeah, that's gonna deliver the metric, but you're missing the mission. And yeah, I think that we get into trouble when we confuse the measurement for the objective.
So for people like who are wondering like this, why this question is complex. I think I had a situation a couple weeks ago. I was talking to my CEO, and I was just giving a general update to senior staff. And he said, yeah, but just tell them the numbers, like the hardcore numbers. I was giving percentages. I'm like, 70-something% here, 90% here. And he's like, no, give the numbers. And I gave the numbers, and it did feel more weighty. Like, oh, yeah, that does kind of sit different when you say, hundreds of people got this. Oh, that's a lot,
Yeah.
But then I think you're right when you look at, when you say that, the percentages are the target. I think they are indicators of success. When I look back at my real estate business, I don't think I measured percentages at all. Now, that was partly because, and this is probably a conversation to have too. When I relaunched my real estate business, I relaunched with no debt. So it was all cash business for me.
Right.
Now, because it was all cash, I didn't have the priority of measuring the return or the monthly revenue against any outgoing expenses that were burdening the business, like a mortgage.
Okay.
So, a monthly or annual tax bill is nothing.
Yeah.
If tenants are paying the utilities, that's not my expense. So now it's just a cash on cash business.
Yeah.
And do I care how fast I make my money back versus, do I care enough to how fast I make my money back? Just because, I was reinvesting new money anyway.
Right.
So I didn't care to make any money back that I invested because I had other money coming in and I was reinvesting it. So it was more of a cash measurement. Like, hey, man, am I getting my normal X $100 a month from tenant A, B, and C?
Yeah.
So, and then even I think about the book sale business. I mean, the only time I measure percentages is when I cared to calculate the cost to produce the book.
Right.
And then the sales, but that's like a one-time,
or setting your price,
right? But that's like a one-time thing versus I just need just give me the $20 for this book and call it that. Like just need to get rid of inventory. Yeah. So it's less about percentages versus just cash.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think percentages very helpful. I'm not suggesting that they're not helpful, but they are a measurement. The name of the game is the money. Or the name of the game is the something, right? One of the nonprofit organizations that I was involved with for almost 10 years, I'm not on their board anymore, but they were a homeless agency that I had a lot of love for because, the joke I used to share is I've been a part of a number of black churches, and all of them had a building fund, and none of them did anything with the building, right? But this was an organization that they said their mission was to end homelessness in the state of Missouri, and they would literally meet their client wherever they were in their journey. If you had mental health issues, they had doctors lined up to help you. If you had substance abuse issues, they had people there set aside ready to help you. If you needed job training, they would give you the job training. If you needed a suit, they can get you a suit. If you needed a car, they could get you a car, as long as you were doing the things that you agreed to do to get yourself out of the homelessness situation. But as soon as you said, "Hey, look, I just want a meal," then okay, here's your meal. Right. And so I really, really appreciate it. Here's a group of people that are actually doing what they said that were trying to do. But one of the things that I got really passionate about is, yeah, it's great to talk about the percentages, but I want to translate how this percentage, how this money even correlate that to the number of people that you've gotten off the street, right? Because it's tied to your mission. So it's not even to say that money is the end all and be all. It's show me the progress towards this mission that you said that you're set out to do. And for-profit organizations, 99% of them, the mission is to make money. And therefore, I want to see your progress towards making money.
Yeah.
Right. But if your cause is to do something more honorable, I want to see your progress towards that more honorable goal. And I've learned a lot over the last 9 years that although you may be in a not-for-profit business, you're still trying to make some money.
Facts.
Right? You might call it something else. You might call it non-restricted giving, but let's not be confused. That's money.
Facts, man.
Right? Because how's the phrase go? No money, no mission.
Yeah, no money, no lights. No money, no building.
It's kind of hard to be honorable if you don't have lights, right?
Nah, it's not.
It's really hard.
It's kind of hard.
So that usually becomes the default goal or the default objective, but I really want to know, how well are you progressing towards delivering against your mission?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, if my Christian upbringing is in the Baptist tradition, and so if I were advising a church, I'd want to say, how many people did you bring into the faith this month? Right? Yeah, I want to know what your donations were. That's important. But I want to know how many people that weren't saved are saved this month because of what you've been talking about from the pulpit. That's a measure of how effective you are. I don't think it's not really about the donations, because anything can affect donations positively or negatively. I want to know how many people, how many appointments are you having with your parishioners where they feel comfortable enough to come to you with their problems?
Yep.
Right. For me, that's an effective measurement that is tied to your mission, or at least what I understand your mission is supposed to be.
What role does debt play in your business and in future business decisions you're planning to make?
I don't like debt. I really don't. I have. This is an un-MBA thing to say, because if you go to business school will say, some debt is healthy debt and some debt's cheap debt, and you should always leverage your cheap debt because it creates leverage for you to do other things. And I get that, and I understand it, and I agree with it academically. But man, I don't like owing folks stuff.
How do you balance that personal preference with because the MBAs say that, but also, some of our favorite business leaders and authors say the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know how to balance it. I just know that I struggle with it to the point. I mean, this isn't just my saying it. When we decided, first of all, we had gotten to a point where we owed like I don't know, 10% on our house mortgage, right? It wasn't even 10%. We owed a small amount on our house mortgage. We paid off our entire house with the exception of this small amount. And when we decided to go into owning a business, the right answer is leverage your credit score to go get a cheap loan, to get money to open up your business, because now you can, your money's always there, your equity is always there. And so we did that. I didn't feel good about it, but we did that. We borrowed money from the bank. We got a great interest rate because of our credit score and all that other stuff. And then that rent came due. And not only did the rent come due, but the loan payment came due, and we weren't making any money. And so finally we decided, you know what? I just need to take ownership of this. And we pulled the equity out of our house, which all of my financial advisors said that was the wrong thing to do. I just sleep better at night knowing that I own this business, right? It's on me. And anything that I make, I put back into the equity of my house. But man, I don't like owing folks stuff because you make different decisions.
It's interesting. So your current debt is tied to where you live.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
keeps the incentive pretty high to.
Yeah. It's like, but we can cover that, right? We
Yeah.
can cover the mortgage payments. I don't know. For me, it feels different knowing that I got to make a mortgage payment every month because I've been making mortgage payments every month. But for my business, the pressure to do things that's going to generate enough to cover the loan payment was driving me crazy because that's what I was thinking about.
So when I started out in the real estate business, it's mortgages.
Yeah.
And I started out several years before the financial crash. So, being new, young and dumb, I got caught in that net. So when we went down, I was down for 3 years, man, in major debt. Found a way to get out of it, but it wreaked havoc. Now, as a person of faith, I stumbled into studying business principles from a biblical perspective. So it was never something I intentionally done or
Okay.
thought about before all this happened, and discovered the Bible's teachings on debt. Owe no man nothing but love.
Ah,
So, and already having disdain for the banks
Mm.
and feeling burned by the banks,
yeah.
and reading that scripture brought comfort, but it also created this resolve. So when we got back into business and learning how to do the real estate game debt free, I was all in. Like, man,
Yeah.
I ain't doing this ever again. So years later, we were fortunate to get back on our feet. We did well, sold the business, moved to Connecticut, and so we're looking to relaunch the investment company. And having the big difference now is that we got 3 kids and not
Yeah.
one
Now it's
or
real.
2. It's real. So having the cash to do what we used to do
Yeah.
is not as prevalent as it once was. Plus, living in a different market and the conditions that have prohibited me from doing what I used to do, or the methods I used.
Yeah.
Some of which I share with you. It just doesn't work here. And so we've thought about like the use of credit and listening to some of our mentors, listening to some of our favorite business authors, business people, they're saying what you talked about, like use debt. But the problem, I struggle with is, and I've always gave this example to people who don't understand the real estate business. So there's a guy can tell you, I am worth 100 million
Yeah.
and I make millions of dollars a month in revenue.
Yeah.
There's a difference when we're talking about revenue versus what you retain as a profit.
Well, howdy.
So if you ever watch Shark Tank and people say, "Oh man, I'm doing like 5 million in sales," or "What's the profit like?" 50,000. What? Like, there's no investment space for that.
Yeah.
So that means after you paid all your bills, paid salaries, etc., you only got 50,000 out of several millions of dollars. And I remember telling friends and family, "Look, man, if he has all this debt and he's only clearing 50 grand, I can buy a handful of beaters in North Philadelphia debt free, cash,
Yeah.
and own way less in terms of the number of units and the actual value of those units be much lower, but my monthly take home, my annual take home be equal or greater than.
Yeah.
So what was the point of getting in debt?
That's it. That's it, man.
Like just do revenue, because now you're making money for the bank. Which listen, for those of you who watch who are bankers, look, I'm not mad at you. It is what it is, but it is a real question to determine: do I leverage credit or not? Do I do cash or not? Do I do a mixture? It's
Yeah.
it's a real thing, especially within this year starting a business that we're talking about in this podcast.
Yeah. It's I mean that's a discussion that I have had with my wife for years, because my wife is a banker, actually.
Oh, sorry, wife.
No. She's a lawyer. She's a banker, and so we have totally different entry points into every discussion, because I'm a marketer, I'm a strategist, I'm all this fancy stuff that you could label me as, but I'm not a finance person. I'm not a lawyer. But for me, it always comes back to, and I think this is another way of saying just what you said. What's the purpose for getting into business?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The purpose for getting into business is to turn $1 into $1.50.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what it's about for me. And we even said, man, I'd love to open a bank. How can I open a mortgage company? Because they seem to get paid, right? And there's this, I'm kind of in a different place right now. I'm moving into a different place. I don't know if this is a crucible moment for me or not, but where I'm starting to see things a little differently. And I got a show that you absolutely need to see if you haven't seen. We're gonna have to talk about. We'll talk about this offline, but I'll just say that you've got to watch this movie, this documentary on Netflix called The Black Godfather.
Okay.
It's absolutely amazing, but it just talks about how this one guy has created a network of relationships that anyone will envy, but it allows him to be able to walk with confidence into any situation, because not only can he fix it, but he knows other people who can fix it for him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real purpose. I think that's the real purpose of life, is to have relationships that any situation that you can get into, someone can help you.
Yep.
Right. And money is just a proxy for those relationships.
It's true.
Right. If I don't have the relationship, if I don't know if I don't know someone who's a great plumber, I can use my money to go get a plumber.
Yeah, sure can.
Right. But there's more value in knowing someone who's a great plumber.
That's right.
Right. If I don't know someone that can do the kinds of things that Dr. William Clark can do, I can spend some money and I can go get someone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's much better that I know Dr. William Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And for me, it keeps coming back to, what's the purpose of doing this? Why am I trying to do this? And how can I go to the objective rather than a proxy, rather than a measurement? Something, my pastor, he was just retired, but he used to say, how can we do the real thing rather than something similar to?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's kind of my approach to business. How can we get to the real thing rather than something similar to?
Mm.
And so much of us in business today, we're doing something similar to.
Mm.
And I used to talk about, one of my VPs in my corporate job. We'd have annual budgets, annual targets that we have to hit, and we would all get to like 98% of the goal, and then we start working on our story as to why we can't deliver the other two. And so my VP would say, wow, that's impressive. That's really, really impressive that you got to 98%. I can appreciate what you did to get there. That's not quite 100 though, is it? Right? And so there's this unapologetic, uncompromising This is what we're here to do. How well are we doing it? Are we progressing towards the goal? Are we actually in this space, or are we doing something similar to?
Facts. So for future business ventures, what are you gonna do? Debt,
Yeah,
or are you gonna try to do cash, or what's the move?
man, I tell you, I hate owing people. I just,
But the Bible says you become a slave
yes.
to the lender,
Oh
and
my
you
gosh.
can't stop working. You can't take off. You can't purchase what you want because you're a slave to paying that bill back. And if
Yeah.
not, your credit gets shot. They don't throw you in jail anymore, but you might as well be in jail if you can't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you know more scriptural references than I will ever know about this, man. But I just know that I just don't. It just doesn't feel right to me. And one of the reasons why I paid off my house, we came really close to paying off my house, against the advice of my financial advisor, right? My financial advisor, brilliant dude. I've known him for 30 years. He was a friend before he was my financial advisor, that kind of thing. And he was of the mindset, dude, that's cheap debt. That's cheap debt. Leverage your money to go do other things. But in the back of my mind, I kept saying, I don't own this house. The bank does. And as long as the bank owns this house, I've got to have a job making X amount of money.
It's true. You get locked into a lifestyle.
I've got to have
Same
it.
with a car note.
I don't have a choice.
Clothes,
Right.
food. Yeah.
It's like, there's no freedom in that.
Right.
Whereas if I own the house, maybe I don't have a whole lot of cash. So maybe I can't go to Aruba. Maybe I can't go to the Bahamas every year, right? Maybe that's like a once in a 5-year, once in a 7-year type excursion, as opposed to if I had the cash sitting in the bank, I could go take those trips. But man, I don't have to have that job making, $250,000 a year, right? I can, I can take a $10 an hour job if I have to, because I don't owe people.
I remember the first property we got cash with no mortgage. First of all, the closing process was like quick.
Yeah.
Because I remember my first mortgage, but I was there for like hours, like signing my life away.
Yeah.
So the closing process was quick. And then like the realization, wait, in Philadelphia, you pay your taxes once a year. So if you forget, they won't foreclose on your house. So that's another thing. It's a business strategy for those from Philadelphia. But I don't have a monthly bill. Like I can, no matter what I charge for rent, if it's $5 to $1,000, that it's mine.
That goes into my pocket.
I can pay my car note without issue. I can keep all of it. Like the liberating feeling.
Yeah.
I tried to describe that to my wife when we first did it, because up to that point, we've had mortgages, we've had houses, we lost our business, and so we ran the gamut of that side to now be bona fide debt free because I negotiated a deal and paid cash out of my pocket, counting it out, and it was done. It was over. The liberation, or the moment I paid off my car because I used rent money to pay the note for 6 months and paid it off cash.
Yeah.
And now my car in the parking lot, no matter what I do to it, it's mine.
There you go.
Like it's not the flashiest car, but it's mine.
There you go. That's it.
Like,
so there's a phrase that we kick around, especially in finance circles, that cash is king, right? And I've heard that for years, but the year that we were really, really close to paying off our mortgage, and then we stopped just because we were at a point where, okay, if I have to, we can make that last bit happen. There's no need to get really crazy. But I had cash, and my wife wanted furniture, and we'd been shopping for furniture for a while. And my line about furniture and really anything is when I buy, I hate to buy things over and over again. So I usually buy really good quality things. But the problem is it goes out of style before it wears out. So we looked around our house and we had like top of the notch, Better Homes and Gardens stuff, really high end stuff for 1984, right? But it hadn't worn out. And we're like, okay, it's time. So we wanted to buy some furniture. And so we went out and we did some furniture shopping, and we found this place that was closing, and there was this set that we thought was really, really nice, and they wanted $3,000 for all the things that we wanted, right? Just all multiple rooms, just all the things that we wanted. They wanted $3,000. But because I had cash, I could say, check it out. I'll either finance this with you, or I can cut you a check for $2,500 right now, today. What's up? And they said, how about 27?
Yeah.
Right?
The negotiating power.
There you go.
Cash.
There you go. Because I got cash right now. Write you the check right now.
But that's what the wholesale business is like.
Right.
When I was wholesaling real estate, you can go ahead and list it on the market, or I can give you, let's say, 15 grand for this house right now.
Right.
But it's worth 40 fixed up. But right now it's current condition.
Right.
Yeah, give me 15.
Right.
There's a show my wife and I've been watching, Say Yes to the Dress.
Yeah.
It follows a wedding dress store in the Boston area.
Yeah.
And they buy discontinued designer dresses all over the country and sell it to brides at a steep discount.
Huh.
Now, I could care less about the decision making a bride, follows in selecting the dress, right? I enjoy the opening 10 minutes when they show the owners going to various shops, defunct shops, storage facilities, negotiating, buying hundreds of dresses, cash. And Lord knows what the original owner paid for it.
Right.
But if you've ever seen that segment of that show, or if you've ever seen episodes of The Prophet when he takes over a business that has had huge inventory, which is considered an asset that's really harming your books,
Right.
he does something that almost scares people to death. He sells the current inventory at a discount because it's really cash that's unused.
Right.
And watching people watch him liquidate, all he's doing is liquidating what would have been worth, let's say, $1 million for a couple $100,000.
Right.
Because that $1 million is the retail value, but real time, give me a couple $100,000, we'll infuse that into the business, and it solves a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
I've seen a Prophet sell products at the dollar store, which was eye-opening. Oh, so that's how that works. So you get a flat rate for X number of cartons of this product, and it shows up in a dollar store as a unique product for that season. And even in the wholesale business, man, cash, man, it's real. It causes people to think, dang, do I wait like 3 years to sell this house for 40 grand? Do I got 15 to put into the house to bring it up to speed just to get 2,000 profit? Or can I just make 15 grand as is, call it a day, and boom.
Right.
And for someone like me who's buying it, I know what to do with it. I know what I'm looking at.
and think about the power side you sit on if you're the one with the cash.
Yeah.
Right. You can make that decision. You'll create, so I attended a negotiation course. It was a 3-day course, really, really great, really intense, unlike anything that I had ever experienced. So there's a lot of emotional, experiential memories that I have. But the one phrase that I remember from that session was the guy said, all of negotiation is in the head of the other person.
Say what?
All of negotiation is conducted in the head of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you get into the head of the other person?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How can you get them to think about what it is that you're trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that should be your goal. So I just gave away that's $100,000 negotiating tip, right? But when you've got cash, you're always in the head of the other person.
Yep.
So so negotiation starts in the head of the other person. But if you've got cash, then all of a sudden you're in the head of the other person automatically, right? Because the reason they're at the table is because they want your cash.
Facts.
Right? And they're trying to create scenarios to make you feel like you don't have enough cash, or you're like, look, I'm sitting here with money. I'm sitting on my wallet. You're in the other person's head automatically.
You're making me miss those days in the good. Oh, I miss those days.
I mean, you get up and walk away, your cash is walking away. That's what he's thinking. And so there's just so much power in having a cash position.
You can talk sense into people when you got
Oh
cash.
my
I bought a
gosh.
house
Okay, look at you.
that had a tenant in it.
Look at you, man.
It was an amazing deal, but you know the point that the thing that turned it was obviously cash, but being able to use the cash to talk sense in a person. Listen, you owe this X amount. It's not even mortgage debt. You owe this to the city in tax debt, gas, water.
Right,
You sell this, you ain't getting no money.
right,
Sell it to me at this price.
right.
Call it a day. I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Man,
And I'll tell you why that works. I'll tell you why that happens is because, first of all, people buy for emotional reasons,
they do.
and then they find the facts to justify the emotional
That's how I
reasons.
started my business, off of emotion,
Yeah,
off of
people
inspiration.
buy for emotional reasons. So
Yeah,
it's not the money
yeah.
that I'm wanting. It's whatever it is I can do with that money,
Yes,
right? It's the I'm part of what I'm doing here is looking at colleges for my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the kind of, I went to a small NAIA college, a good school, but just kind of a solid school. My wife went to Duke, right? So there goes the good school just around the corner. My daughter's playing at that UPenn level now, thanks to my wife. And so I need money. And I'm going to negotiate hard for everything that I do because I want to generate as much money as I possibly can. I'm going to work my business as hard as I possibly can. I'm going to sell my books as hard as I possibly can because I want money. But the reason I want money is so that if my daughter gets into UPenn, she can't say I can't go because of money,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what I'm doing it for. So if you were to pay me in a free ride to UPenn, as opposed to giving me money, I will take that in a heartbeat. And that's the case with everyone. Everyone's got this thing that they want to do with money. And the problem is when you're negotiating with someone, you don't know what that thing is.
Mm.
Even if they were to tell you what that thing is, chances are you won't believe them, right?
Bro.
So money becomes this neutralizer.
Yep.
And that's why it becomes important. But people don't really, it's not really about the money. It's about the thing that they can do with money that they need. So
I'm going to tell you, I was going to tell you the same story, but from a different lens. I was going to say originally that the Bible, another position in business to be in is the wholesaler, the mover of product.
Okay.
But then what you just said ties into the same story, right? The motivations. So one of the stories I wrote about in my doctoral thesis, Luke chapter 16.
Okay.
It's a story about a guy that got fired, and he knew he was going to get fired because he was just playing around too much. So he went to all the debtors of his master and said, listen, you owe my master 100 bushels of wheat. Pay 60. We'll call the debt even. You owe my master 80, baskets of grapes. Pay 40. We're good. And so on and so on. And his master, before firing him, says, you're wise, right? And the reason he did this is because he said, I'm too pretty to go dig ditches and become a manual laborer. So I need to make some friends by cutting deals. So as the wholesaler, first of all, he should have been doing business right the first time so he could get fired. But as the wholesaler, he made friends because he cut deals. But then he also, I'm going to presume, he made money for the owner. And I'm bringing this story up because when you buy smart, and I've learned in real estate, you make your money with the price you buy the property at, right? When you buy smart, no matter what the sales price is, there's always a profit baked in.
Mm-hmm.
And for the owner, it seems as though he still made out, even though there seems to be a discount that was paid.
Yeah.
And I've learned just, in this journey, we were talking about debt and how and what's your philosophy on it. Playing the wholesale game has really changed a lot for me because it taught me about sales a lot. It taught me about the motivations of the persons I'm working with, both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
Negotiations, how all that works, and then what role I play in bridging the gap And I'm only sharing that biblical story just because it's an interesting story, an interesting business story for people who are trying to understand, well, how does this book I may believe in
Yeah.
impact my decisions?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I'm always amazed. I don't know if amazed is the right word. I'm always refreshed. I'm always intrigued by how many business principles are in the Bible.
Mm,
That a lot of times people will say things that sound biblical, but when you actually look at what the words are in the Bible, they're not biblical. Actually, the Bible says something totally opposite of what you've been saying all your life, what grandmama told you, and that kind of thing. And the business, and I don't know the scriptural reference, but when Jesus talks about the talents,
it's another one. It's another
it's
story.
like,
It's ridiculous.
it's like, okay, so he's straight up gangster. He's like, look, get away from me. Look, I gave you this thing.
You broke my machine.
It's like, look, I gave this to you.
Yeah.
You knew from Jump Street that I'm expecting you to come back with more than what I gave you.
No matter
What's
what.
up?
No
What's
matter
up?
what.
What's up?
Yeah.
Right?
Love that story.
So it's like, and then I tie that into, or I don't tie that in, but that's in the back of my mind quite a lot when I talk about my work in trying to help people find their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
That there is some reason, and I think I began this by saying that everyone's designed to be the greatest in the world at something, and that has to be true, because if not, then what's the point? What's the point? If you're not supposed to be the greatest in the world at something, what's the point of you being here? Right? There is no reason. It's almost like if I'm building out a toolbox and I've already got a screwdriver, why do I need to go get another screwdriver? I don't need another screwdriver.
Yeah.
I need a wrench, or I may need a ratchet screwdriver. I may need a Phillips head screwdriver because I got common screwdriver. But I'm not going to buy something unless it's going to do something different that's going to help me get to where I'm going. And I think that you were created with that same concept in mind.
Mm.
The reason you were created was so that you could do something incremental for what your creator was looking to accomplish.
In the big picture. Yeah.
And if you're not going to do that something incremental, what's the point of you being here?
I agree with that. I want to transition, but I need to ask you this question. Do you own the building that your retail business operates?
No, but I tell you, I thought about it. I really did. I asked that question in the very beginning when we were looking at properties. I was like, got it. What would it take to own an entire whatever that I'm going to be sitting in?
Mm,
Then they told me the number that kind of snapped me out of it.
mm.
But and I couldn't be in the place that I'm in, the kind of place that I'm in, if I'd done it. But I sure did ask that question.
Man, I would love to dig into that. Maybe another conversation, the benefits or pros and cons of owning versus leasing.
Yeah, well, I think the closer you can get to owning, the better.
I believe in that.
The closer you can get to owning, the better.
It changes things.
It really does. I'm still struggling, and I struggled for years. I guess about almost 20 years ago. Yeah, it must have been about 20 years ago. We were living in Cleveland, and one of our best friends in the area happened to be a partner with McKinsey. Really, really smart dude. I mean, like brilliant smart dude. Like there's no need to be that kind of smart dude. And he leased his car. And I was like, wow, it's kind of. So, at that point I started, he was the first person that I'd ever known to lease a car as opposed to buy a car. And so he was trying to hit me as to why he was leasing the car. He's like, because, hey, look, in 3 years, I'm going to want something different anyway. And it's a diminishing value of the asset and that kind of thing. And so I understood that. I understand that academically and intellectually, but still, man, I just.
Owing somebody a re-up in your debt. Yeah.
Yeah. I never really owned this thing.
Yeah.
And then there's similar conversation today around, is there value in renting as opposed to owning your house? Because they say that the maintenance cost is deferred to someone else.
And in Connecticut, the taxes are insane.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you decide that you want to go somewhere else, you're not tied to this asset, which is actually a liability. If you talk to Kawasaki. He'll tell you that your house is not an asset, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And therefore, renting is more intelligent to rent than it is to own. But I can't get there, man.
I mean, but here, for those of you saying, well, duh, you should buy versus rent. Here's something we all do every September, October, no matter what date it is, we run out and get new iPhones.
Yeah.
Whether you get the, 1 year later, 2 years later, you're re-upping
Yeah.
your rental of a new iPhone.
Yeah.
And so even on a smaller yet still expensive scale, we make those judgment
They
calls.
call it ownership. They say that you own your phone.
I'm still paying for that phone. This is a year and a half old, and I'm gonna get the new one when it comes out. I'm already resigned to it. Versus saying once I pay it off, I'm good. Like, it's a judgment call. But I do want to transition to the other two businesses. One of the things you said earlier that obviously you're coaching and consulting and you're writing, and you brought in this book. I had to read this one. I read the story. I read the fable.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to read this, the 200 Powerful Leadership, Personal Excellent Quotes by you, Galen. And it's tweet worthy. But one of the things you said, which I find so fascinating, and I resonated with it, you said owning your business has given you insight. So I connect with that for a couple of reasons. One, you and I had offline conversations about some of your intentions with this business. Don't know if they're the same. It feels like they've changed a bit. So we'll talk about that offline. But then two, to leverage your intimate knowledge to coach. I enjoy working in the nonprofit business. I enjoy the rush of fixing and building.
Right.
But working in it, man, it's the rush. And for more than anything else, it gives me tons of material. So when I do decide to teach or consult or advise, there's a lot of practical insight. So, I mean, talk to us about like what you've been using, what you've learned, and how did you get to this point of saying, no, this is a good thing to own this because now it adds to my repertoire.
Yeah. I think I have more intimate knowledge of the challenges that my clients would face that. And I kind of joked earlier about, I didn't read this in a Harvard Business Review. I'm living this. There are some things that you can know intellectually, but until you know them experientially, it's not the same. It doesn't hit you the same way. It doesn't resonate. And there are some things that I've experienced over the last year and a half in my retail business that I didn't fully appreciate. And so now when I consult with a client, or even if I'm just coaching. So yesterday I had a coaching conversation with one of my clients, and I was able to talk to him specifically about this is what you're going to face in the next 3 months. Right? You're leveraging your business. You're launching your own business. And you're excited about it right now. And in the next 3 months, you're going to question yourself several times as to whether or not you've made a mistake.
You become a prophet,
right?
I've been doing that with my staff, especially those who get promoted. Like your transition is going to be 9 months.
Yeah.
To just kind of set yourself settled, set your culture.
Yeah.
Just deal with it. Lock in for 9 months. It's
interesting. And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was able to. And I'm going to advise anyone to do this. I'm going to give you something for free on this. If you're watching this video, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to tell you to do this because this is what I did for my coaching client. And it makes all the difference in the world. I said, right now, at this moment, you're getting ready to launch your business. You've got a launch date for 30 days from now. 30 days from now, you're going to launch. You're going to put out your shingle that you are in business. You are the most excited that you will ever be with owning this business. What I want you to do is I want you to go on YouTube. I want you to create a private video talking to yourself about why you're doing this right now, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Because in 30 days, when you launch your business, you're going to start getting hit with real life. And 60 days from there, you're going to forget why you're doing this. And I need you to watch your video.
That's good.
I don't need you to watch a video of me telling you why you're doing this. You need to have a video of yourself. And when you watch it, I want you to look into your eyes, right? And so those are some things that I could not have come up with had I not gone through the excitement of I'm getting ready to open a business that I've talked about for years and years and years. I'm finally going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a we used to talk about business card businesses. This is not a business card business, right?
Yeah.
Or in the hood, this isn't a business. This is an actual
Man.
brick and mortar
I
business
pay
where
taxes on this thing.
I pay taxes. I need
Get out.
W-9s. Employees. EIM, EIN number, that kind of thing. And once you get into that, you forget what you're doing this for.
Yeah.
And that's when the measurement then becomes the objective as opposed to, what you're trying to create. And that, like I said, that's something that I would not have thought about had I not been through this myself. And so just that level of texture, another example in my corporate consulting, the company asked me to talk with another major restaurant corporation. And I was giving them some advice from a global perspective. They were breaking away from their parent company. They were setting up systems, which they didn't have to think about in the past when they were part of this parent company. They used their systems, and they were just creating things, and they didn't necessarily know all the things that they needed to create. And so I was able to give them some advice from a global business standpoint, leveraging my 30 years in corporate America. And then after I did that, I was able to talk to them on an outlet basis. This is what you're going to need to do, right? You're going to need to figure out how do you make sure that the person shows up, right? What's your check and balance to make sure that if they're supposed to show up at 10, that they actually show up at 10? And how are you going to know when, although they say that they're going to be 15 minutes late, how do you know that they're actually coming? And how are you going to open your store anyway, right? And that's something that doesn't happen, right? From a global macro big business standpoint, that doesn't happen, right? Because the answer is they don't show up, you just fire them. Okay, great.
Okay.
You just fire them. How you gonna open your store?
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
How you gonna open your store? So you got to figure that out. And so those are things that business school doesn't teach you.
Man.
Business school doesn't talk about that.
Nope.
Because that quote unquote doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But in reality, absolutely, that's gonna happen.
I find myself coaching my staff, my leadership team on the same things. And this is where, you talking about, everything in your life is about leadership. I'm the same way. With my team, I chuckle when I watch them kind of deal with things that when they tell me, man, you made it look so easy. I don't know why I was talking about you behind your back, bro. Like, it's all good, because it's your turn, and I find myself coaching. So, that's a good idea. So what if this, and this? Well, what do you mean? Because this person on your team will do this person on your team will do this, and you got this person on the team, and you don't forget this person. Oh, man, really?
Yeah.
And it's for me, I enjoy the coaching because you're watching the next wave of leaders take their lumps and think through. And I often equate leadership to playing chess. I don't play chess, but I play Mancala.
Okay.
It's still a strategy game.
Oh my.
And it's the goal is to think 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. I know people don't enjoy management or leadership because they're dealing with people, but really it's a game.
Yeah.
And the behaviors, just like in chess, or any other game that has rules, the characters on the board can only do what they're allowed to do. Meaning, and if you translate it to people talk, the personality a person has is not unique from someone else, from another place of employment.
Sure.
You go to a different place, you got the same devils. Just like there's always a person that reminds you of someone in your childhood, at work or in business, and that's their MO. So if you know that, then you need to figure out, all right, so this is how they're going to behave, boom, 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 boom. And you may see something a little different, so you adjust, but it's a game.
It's game theory.
Yes.
Actually, I had
Game
this
theory.
conversation literally this morning with my daughter, because she was, again, we're looking at colleges, and she's always had a passion for math, like a freakish understanding and passion for math. And most recently, over this past year, she's developed a really keen interest for science.
Mhm.
And so she's looking at schools that have a really strong program in science, but she doesn't know what kind of science she wants to go into. But she's always enjoyed strategy. She's
Mm.
always enjoyed strategy games, and she's got like strategy apps and stuff on her phone, those little child games.
Mhm.
And she, talk about Mancala. That's one of her favorite games. And we stopped playing chess when she beat me in an Oberweis on a chessboard once. That's a whole nother story. But I was telling her that that is psychology, right? That's
Yeah.
behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
And it's game theory, to
Mhm.
be specific, where you're trying to think, when this is where I'm trying to go. This
Mhm.
is my purpose. This is my vision. This is whatever you want to say from a business standpoint. And given all the other players that are going to be influencing my path,
Sure.
how do I navigate this so that everyone feels good about giving me what I need?
Yeah.
And that's game theory, that's behavioral psychology. And we need leaders who embrace that, as opposed to saying, we just need to get there.
Or we need leaders who take on the tough guy role of making the tough decisions and not allowing emotions to get in the way. You and I did a podcast
Yeah.
about this. I think it was Jim. We kept talking about
Yeah,
uh
yeah, yeah. Bob,
Bob.
Bob,
It was
Bob. That
Bob.
was
It
Bob.
was Bob.
Bob no longer works with us anymore. We've made him available to industry.
Oh God, yeah, I love that made Bob available. And I think people, particularly in the nonprofit business, we're very emotional, man. We're a heart driven business. It not only extends itself to our clients and customers, but also to team members that really should be on a team, and being willing to not only deploy your pieces to their maximum capacity
Right.
for all the creativity they offer, whether it's a rook, a knight, a
Yeah.
king, a queen, whatever, but also destroying the competition or the barriers that stand in your way,
Yeah.
the defense lines that are intended to suck you in, the temptations by the other player to give you the impression that there's an open path forward, and realizing, no, I'm not going to go left, I'm going to go right, and then I'm going to double back and then go left. Leadership does require you to be offensive and defensive at the same time.
Yeah. It's game theory.
Mm,
It
I love
is
that.
it is pure strategy. And you're the only difference between business leadership or nonprofit leadership and that game of chess is that you're not only playing against an opponent, you're not only playing against a competitor, you have to do it in the same vein of working with personalities,
Mm,
because the rook on the chessboard doesn't talk back,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But Bob does,
Darn
right?
Bob.
But Bob has his own agenda that he's trying to achieve.
And
And
sometimes it's not malicious.
right, it's sometimes not malicious, but it's my biggest thing, my approach to selling when I was a salesperson, my approach to leading when I lead teams, my approach to advising clients is, how do you figure out what the other person is trying to do and help them do that?
Yeah.
Using your services, using your strategies, using your objectives. Right? How can you highlight to someone how you winning is in their best interest?
Mm, yeah.
And how can you help them win by them helping you achieve your goal?
Yeah.
Because command and control works in the right situations. It just doesn't work long term outside of the military,
Mm,
right? But in the military, yeah, I'm not looking for a conference. I
mm,
really don't need your input and I don't value your input when I say we need to take that hill. I need you to pick up your gun and start taking the hill, right?
Yeah.
That works in military. But when you're in a nonprofit situation, when you're in a corporate situation, when you're in a service-oriented situation, I need to make you feel good about this mission that we're providing, and I need to get you to give me things that I didn't know that I needed. Otherwise, I've got to be the smartest guy in the room every time.
Yeah. Earlier, we talked about systems in the business, and when we were talking about leadership game theory, it made me think of, ultimately, maybe that is the ultimate system to master in a business. And I don't know if I'm fully there yet, but I'm just
Gotcha.
working with this, because when I think about the example you gave about, a shift manager who's new to management, team members who show up late or ghost you,
Mm,
um, people who underperform in any business, and there are things you can check for
yeah.
to determine if something was done and or done right. But it seems to come back to the system of leadership and everything that goes along with that, the development of team members, the assessment of team members, doing an autopsy,
Yeah.
like something you said earlier, where there are text messages that are now key indicators of someone quitting within the next period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would call that a, a skill of leadership.
Absolutely. Susan Scott is an author, and she wrote, gosh, what was the name of her book? It's going to come to me. It's going to come to me. But her idea is around Fierce Conversations. Is the name of her book. She wrote Fierce Conversations. She also wrote Fierce Leadership, and her concept is how do you see what doesn't want to be seen, right?
Mm,
How do you I think she calls it squid eyes, right? Where squid do certain things to hide themselves, to bury themselves in at the bottom of the ocean, and the talented fishermen, they understand the cues that suggest that there's really a squid there. The natural, the run of the mill fisherman novice won't see it, right? And so I think as a leader, it becomes the art. They call it an art, but I think it's a skill that's developed over time, where you have the ability to see those things that are trying to hide, right? And I think that is a system. That is a system. Another guy that I talked with on my show, and I interviewed him, and he goes by the tag name of the Leadership Accelerator. So I go by the Leadership Strategist. He goes by the Leadership Accelerator.
mhm.
But he talks about where one of his business school professors said that you operate without a system at your own peril.
Facts. And it's not just the IT system or data
Right.
system. It's just
It's a leader for him. It's a leadership principle. He says that
yeah.
he's got a list of questions that he asks every time in the same order, regardless of the situation. He might change the words,
Sure.
but he's asking the same questions every time in the same order. And that's his system. Now, that seems a bit robotic, but let's think about that. When I got into my retail business, I came in with a good degree of arrogance.
Hmm.
And so I wasn't asking a lot of the questions that I should have been asking,
Yeah.
right? If I were to advise someone to get into a business, I would tell him, ask these questions. I already know what those questions are. But because I was in it and because I had arrogance, I didn't ask those questions.
Mm,
And I learned my lesson. I'm on a good plane, but it took me 4 years to get there.
mm.
And I probably spent a good $50,000 in expense
Learning.
that I didn't have to because of my arrogance.
Yeah.
And I think that leadership process or that leadership discipline guards you against making those kinds of mistakes,
Mm,
right? Because I'm going to ask this question because this is question number 3,
mm,
right?
mm.
Not because I just thought of it. I've thought through what I need to ask, and I'm going to ask these questions no matter what. And I think that that's a great discipline that many leaders, especially seasoned leaders, don't have
Mm.
because we've been in this game for a while.
Marcus Lemonis is famously his system is people, product, and process.
Okay.
That's the system.
All right. Perfect.
And the offshoots of that, for those of you that may have your own systems, there are subsystems to that. He believes if you don't have the right people, it's going to ruin the product. If you have a terrible product, it's going to ruin the business. If you have a great people, great product, but you don't have a process to manage the business, you're screwed. And he measures that going in, and sometimes people are missing one or two or all three, and he sees the potential.
Yeah.
And he implements a system to guarantee that.
Yeah, I think that
Guarantees success. Let me just say that.
I think that that's brilliant. And I also believe in something we said earlier. I believe that it's a mistake to adopt anyone's system or process as your own blindly.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Although it's brilliant, and although he can demonstrate the success that it's created for him, I think you have to understand your business well enough to say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of his process. I'm going to take a little bit of this process over here.
Mm-hmm.
And the Harvard Business School has got their, 5 S's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use a little bit of that to create this process that works for my situation. And I think that a lot of businesses get into trouble when they adopt Harvard's 5S.
But that, it's not just adopting it for context and relevance to your business. I also will add to that relevance to your personality and your own skill set.
Exactly.
Because when I rehabbed a nonprofit recently, I had staff copying the principles I used.
Yeah.
It didn't sound natural to them because they didn't have the skills to really deploy that,
right,
and to know the true essence as to why. And those principles weren't things I carried from nonprofit to nonprofit. It just made sense for this nonprofit because
right,
this is where y'all were lacking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it needs to be relevant to you as a person.
Yeah. There are certain things, Vince Lombardi famously said, I can give you my game book for Sunday morning and still beat you. Right?
Yeah,
because
I love that.
because knowing what to do and doing it the way that I do, two different things.
And why and when
and why
and how
and when and there's a sense, there's a sixth sense. There is knowing when to deviate from your plan and when not to deviate from your plan. There's a time to be uncompromising, and then there's a time to compromise. And knowing when to do that is going to be specific to my personality. So I can tell you, even in my business, because we hire so many young kids, we operate from a lot of scripts. So I write a lot of scripts as to this is what you should say when someone comes in. This is what you should say as you're moving through the process. And I write down what I say. Now, they use the exact same words that I use, but my delivery is different, right? There's something about the way I do it that generates success. So if I'm holding them accountable for saying the exact same words, I'm missing the point. So instead, I say, this is what we're trying to do, and I need you to think about some element of your life. We pay a lot of attention to our greeting. And there's this process that we use where we say, I need you to make a genuine connection with every guest that comes in here. And by making a genuine connection, here's an example of how I do it. But what I want you to do is share a piece of yourself with them, right?
Yep.
Here's an example of how I do it. But if you do what I do, it's not going to sound right.
Yeah.
I need you to share a piece of yourself. And I think that, back to what you're saying, you have to make accommodations for these things that are inherent in you, that how you look at the business, how you look at whatever. And that way, that's why I say, if I just lift William Clark's process and put into my situation, as brilliant as it is, as many success stories as you can point to, as much logical sense as it makes, it's not going to feel right.
No, I think that speaks to having significant emotional intelligence
Yeah, that's exactly what we're
and
talking
being
about.
honest about who you are. And who you are, even if it's different from the person you're lifting these principles from,
Yeah,
doesn't make you deficient.
right,
Your uniqueness, as you talked about earlier, your contributions to this world and how you view things it brings nuance.
right,
And being okay with your weirdness, your quirkiness, your differences makes it completely different, because there are people who need your perspective
right.
that I just don't reach, I don't connect with
Yeah.
for whatever reason, man.
Yeah. So a big part of my last corporate job was training salespeople.
Mm.
And literally training them on the sales process. And towards I guess the last 18 months, I was literally the person in charge of re-envisioning the company's selling process worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the key things that I used to say is I used to tell my salespeople not to talk about numbers. And I'd say, don't talk about numbers. And if anyone asks you for a number, give them a number, but then get out of that conversation as quickly as you can, because you want to talk about, what it is that they're trying to do with the numbers. Right. And that works for me because that works for me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
my process. That's the way I do it, and how I do it I've gotten success from it. My colleague who would teach this same course would say, definitely talk about the numbers. It's all about the numbers. That's what they're wanting to hear. The more proficient you are with the numbers, the more confidence and more trust they have in you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, but the way that he did it sounded natural. Right. And so you have to step into a process, a system that fits your personality. As soon as I try to sound like him, it sounds stupid. I fumble over myself.
Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't sound natural.
And as soon as he starts trying to do the things and say the things that I say, I'm like, dude, just really don't say that anymore. Don't do that like that anymore. Right. So, but yeah, you've got to know yourself. And to your point, it takes courage to say, this is who I am. This is how I flow. It also takes courage to say, and I'm really, really good at it.
It's not arrogant to say
That's
that.
it. Well, and you and I've talked about
Yes.
that. Yeah, it might be a little arrogance. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and your job is to tap dance on that line, right? But knowing yourself isn't arrogant.
Mm.
Owning the fact that I'm really, really good at this thing is not arrogant. Saying it every
2 seconds.
every 2 seconds might be, but owning what you're good at, I don't think is arrogance.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation.
So fast. Talk to us, about 200 powerful leadership and personal excellence quotes.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the companion to the Leadership Fable. That's the companion to the primary book that I wrote. And, short story there. I wrote the first book, really excited about it, got a release date. So I called my writing mentor and I'm like, it's finally here. It's coming out and I'm really excited about it. And I was expecting him to pat me on the back and congratulate me. He said, yeah, well, now you need to write a companion book and it needs to come out at the same time as your original book. And so the original book was a fable about a fictitious leader who lost her way and was trying to find her path back to who she said she wanted to be as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so she reminisces on the time when she was at school, trying to learn what she was supposed to learn as a leader. And she and her friends find study refuge in a coffee shop that was owned by a McKinsey-like consultant. And he's lined the walls of the coffee shop with all these inspirational quotes. And so this book is the only place where you can find a complete list of all the quotes that were on the fictitious coffee shop owner's walls.
Is Bean's wall like a real place?
No, it's made up.
So where'd you get these quotes from?
So those are quotes that have meant something to me. Those are quotes that I've either heard, I've seen. Some are actually me and my words,
Hmm.
but those are quotes that just really speak to being effective as a leader, owning your own greatness, having the humility, as you said earlier, the humility to say, these are the things that I'm not very good at. But then I've also redefined humility by saying that humility is owning the reality of being human. And the reality of being human is that there are things that you're not very good at, but then there are some things that you're really, really good at, and you need
Mm.
to own both of them because you show up differently. And so, yeah, it's just a compilation of all those different things.
So, if you can, before you leave, can you break down number 46? The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary by Vince Lombardi.
Oh my
What does
gosh,
that mean?
that means that there is no easy path. There is no easy way to get there. There's no easy way to get there. I mean, it's so easy to look at people who are successful now and say, well, clearly, I mean, they just showed up one day, so clearly that's a natural talent. All I need to do is start a YouTube channel, and I'll be discovered, right? But there's a lot of hard work that comes into making that real that we often don't see. And the only place where success comes before,
Oh, now I get
the
it.
only place, other than that,
Alphabetically.
alphabetically, that's the,
Duh.
that's the only place.
Didn't.
Other than that, there's work involved in being successful.
Oh, got it.
And I've translated that same sentiment by saying you can be good by happenstance, right? Any lucky break and you can be good.
Mm,
Greatness requires a decision. It
mm,
requires a decision, hard work, it's commitment. You can't just happen to be great,
mm.
right? And same sentiment, just Vince Lombardi just got to the point.
I I got it. A little slow there, but I got it. Got it.
But yeah, there are just so many things in there that I've just really come to appreciate. Um, I think my favorite one is Beanswell quote number 200, and I can't read that from memory. I'm going to ask you to read it, but it's on actually page I think 53 or something like that. But it's the last actual quote, and it just kind of sums up um, my approach to this thing called life. This is my aim. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm absolutely convinced that success is
So I
in life.
swear, I read the first sentence. I said, "Oh, this sounds very similar to the Art of War." This really sounds very similar to Art of War. Oh yeah, it is the Art of War. But it says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not your enemy, for every victory gained, you will suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle.
That's it. That's it. You've got to know what's going on. And it starts with knowing yourself. It starts with knowing who you are, why you're here, what's uniquely gifted about you, and what's your Achilles heel. You've got to know that, but you've got to know we talked about game theory. You got to know the same thing about anyone else that's in your space and the competitor that's sitting across the table from you. And if you don't know either one, dude, you're just watching. You're just watching. You might as well enjoy the popcorn,
And you're leaving it up to chance.
and you're leaving it up to chance.
And that's a whole nother faith. I mean, we probably need to schedule just another podcast together because, I'm going through this sermon series this year with the church around spirituality and the lack of planning, the lack of forward thinking shows that you're deficient in your spiritualness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Think about, you're familiar with the story of the five foolish virgins and the five wise virgins? And let's go back to the example you talked about with the talents. There's components of spirituality there or lack thereof. If you are consciously aware of the expectations that are set upon you
Hmm.
and you don't fulfill them and you make excuses, your spirituality is lacking because the spirituality of God is about excellence and completeness.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So if he himself decided to create an incomplete creation, he's not operating in his personal fullness.
Hmm.
And if you are attempting to act like him based upon the image you're made in, which is your spirit, and you decide to give less than or half step or don't seek a return on investment as he would,
Mm-hmm.
you're not being spiritual, my friend.
Boy. Even if you just think about the actual definition of sin, it's to miss the mark.
It's the error. I missed the
To
mark.
miss the mark of perfection is to sin, right?
Yeah.
It's like if I don't hit that target dead smack in the, I'm not just talking about the red circle, dead smack in the center of that red circle, I've sinned.
Yeah.
And you can't get there without planning. That's
a problem.
That's a problem.
So with staying with the visual,
okay,
we all sin, come short of the glory of God.
Yeah.
But the idea of repentance is to turn away. Now, if you have the visual of a bow and arrow trying to hit the bullseye, it's going to take some practice to kind of the wind, wind that thing back. You got to keep practicing until you keep hitting the center bullseye consistently.
You got to keep practicing.
And it's okay to practice until you get it right, man.
And you've got to be uncompromising in saying, this is not quite right.
Right.
This is not quite. Yeah, I've hit the red space. I'm in the center, but I'm not in the center of the center.
I'm trying to be in the center of the center.
I'm trying to be in the center of the center. And, I've grown a larger fan of Kobe Bryant after he's retired, because we're starting to see a lot of videos and a lot of interviews and a lot of books about his work ethic and how he was just relentless in this pursuit of perfection. Realizing another quote from Vince Lombardi captures this, and he says, every day we will pursue perfection in full understanding that we won't get there. But by pursuing perfection, we will find excellence. But if you don't pursue perfection, then you're going to get comfortable with something similar to,
or less than,
right?
Yeah.
It's something similar to,
yeah,
right? It's not quite the real thing, but it's similar to,
yeah.
And that's not what that's especially when you talk about a spiritual walk, that's not what this is about. That's not what God is about. He's not about something similar to.
Oh, man. That's whack. Galen, thank you for coming in, sir.
Absolutely, man. This has been so much fun.
We gotta do this again.
Absolutely, man. I tell you, it's different sitting across the table, because technology is great because it bridged two people that there would be no way for us to meet each other. We might pass each other, but we wouldn't have the same relationship, that kind of thing. But there is something about communion. There's something about camaraderie. There's something about sitting across the desk that, for me, it gives me courage that this path that I'm on is a worthwhile path to be on. Because it's easy to forget.
Yeah, man.
It's easy to forget, which is a whole nother conversation for us to have, man.
Thanks for coming in, bro.
Absolutely.